The diplomatic hall of Station Nexus Prime was unlike anything the human delegates had ever imagined. The massive chamber stretched for miles in every direction, its ceiling disappearing into artificial clouds that provided a sense of open sky for species that required it. Atmospheric processors maintained dozens of different environmental zones, allowing beings with radically different biological needs to share the same space. Captain Parker walked beside Dr. Ashton and Engineer Mendez as they approached the central speaking area. Around them, representatives from 47 different species watched with curiosity and caution. The diversity was overwhelming. Crystalline beings that reflected light in beautiful patterns, gaseous entities contained in specialized atmospheric suits, digital consciousnesses projected as holographic forms, and dozens of other life forms that challenged every assumption about what intelligent life could look like. Elder Thrum dominated one entire section of the hall, his massive form composed of living stone that had grown wise over thousands of years. When he spoke, his voice resonated through the station's structure, causing subtle vibrations that every being present could feel in their bones or equivalent structures. "We welcome the return of humanity to the galactic community," he began, his ancient words carrying the weight of millennia. "The old archives speak of your people as both terrible and magnificent, warriors without equal, but also beings capable of great compassion. Your recent actions suggest that the legends may have been incomplete." Captain Parker felt the responsibility of speaking for her entire species as she stepped forward to address the assembly. "We thank you for this opportunity to establish peaceful contact. Humanity has spent generations believing we were alone in the universe. To discover such a rich community of diverse species working together is beyond our wildest dreams." Commander Zeth Ka rose from his position among the military representatives, his forearms moving in gestures that conveyed both respect and concern. "Your recent encounter with the pirate fleet has raised important questions about human capabilities and intentions. Our military analysts believe that a single human vessel could challenge an entire Federation fleet. This creates certain security concerns for our member species." Dr. Ashton stepped forward, her scientific background making her the natural choice to address technical questions. "Our species developed advanced warfare technology out of necessity. For centuries, we fought among ourselves, pushing the boundaries of military science in conflicts that devastated our homeworld. But through that experience, we also learned the value of peace, cooperation, and mercy toward our enemies." Ambassador Ryle of the Peaceful Syndicate spoke with obvious curiosity, her tentacles moving in patterns that expressed deep interest. "The pirates you defeated could have been destroyed entirely with minimal effort on your part. Yet you chose to capture and heal them rather than eliminate the threat they represented. This decision requires explanation." Captain Parker's answer would become the foundation of humanity's reputation throughout the galaxy. "Because strength without mercy is merely brutality. We fight when we must. But we believe that even our enemies deserve the chance to choose a better path. The pirates we defeated are now receiving medical treatment aboard our ship, and several have expressed interest in abandoning their criminal activities." Lieutenant Cora 9 of the Digital Syndicate processed this information at superhuman speed, her synthetic consciousness analyzing the implications of human moral philosophy. "This approach to conflict resolution is unprecedented in our historical records. Most species either completely destroy their enemies or are destroyed by them. The concept of deliberate restraint during warfare suggests a level of ethical development that typically requires thousands of years to achieve." Dr. Zara of the Healing Worlds had been studying the medical reports from the Aurora's treatment of the wounded pirates. "Your medical techniques show remarkable adaptability. Despite having no previous knowledge of alien physiology, your healers successfully treated injuries in 7 different species. This suggests both advanced medical technology and an intuitive understanding of biological systems." Engineer Mendez found himself drawn into technical discussions with representatives from the engineering guilds of various species. The Klaxon Hive's chief engineer, a creature with 6 delicate manipulator arms, was particularly interested in human adaptive technology. "Your defensive systems learn and improve during combat," the Klaxon engineer observed. This concept of technology that becomes more effective through use is fascinating. Most species develop systems that degrade under stress, requiring constant maintenance and replacement. Human engineering philosophy emphasizes adaptability and resilience, Mendez explained. We learned early in our development that the best systems are those that can handle unexpected situations and improve through experience. The Federation Council deliberated for 3 standard days while the human delegation was given extensive tours of Station Nexus Prime. Each interaction revealed new aspects of galactic civilization, while also demonstrating humanity's unique perspectives and capabilities. Dr. Ashton spent most of her time in the medical facilities, exchanging knowledge with healers from dozens of different species. Her adaptable approach to medicine, combined with human intuition about biological systems, led to several breakthrough discoveries that benefited multiple species. Navigation Officer Morrison, who had accompanied the delegation, found himself in deep discussions with the station's traffic control systems. His 3-dimensional thinking about space navigation impressed controllers who had been managing starship traffic for centuries. "Your approach to multi-dimensional navigation is remarkable," observed Traffic Controller Helm 9, whose species had managed galactic shipping for over 1,000 years. Most species think in terms of point-to-point travel, but humans seem to consider space as a fluid medium that can be navigated artistically. The turning point in the diplomatic discussions came during a casual conversation between Captain Parker and a group of young Federation officers. When asked about humanity's greatest achievement, Parker's answer surprised everyone present. "We learned to stop fighting each other and work together to reach the stars," she said simply. "For most of our history, humans were divided into competing nations and factions. We fought wars that nearly destroyed our civilization. But eventually, we realized that our differences made us stronger when we worked together instead of against each other." This statement rippled through the Federation Council like a shockwave. Here was a species that had overcome their own violent nature through cooperation and shared purpose, exactly what the Federation represented on a galactic scale. The parallel was too obvious to ignore. Elder Thrum's voice resonated through the chamber as he addressed the final council session. The Federation was founded on the principle that diverse species could work together for mutual benefit. Humanity's development demonstrates that this principle can emerge naturally, even among species that begin with violent tendencies. Commander Zeth Ka stood to announce the Council's decision. After extensive deliberation, the Galactic Trade Federation extends an invitation to humanity to join our community as full members. Your military capabilities are indeed formidable, but your demonstrated wisdom and restraint prove that you understand the responsibility that comes with such power. Captain Parker rose to accept the invitation with words that would be carved into memorial walls throughout the galaxy. "We accept, not as conquerors or as subjects, but as partners in building a future where all species can thrive together among the stars." The ceremony celebrating humanity's entry into the Federation was attended by representatives from across the galaxy. Former pirate Lord Vex Tor, now reformed and working as a security consultant, stood among the observers as living proof of humanity's belief in redemption and second chances. As the Aurora prepared to return to Earth with news that would change human civilization forever, Captain Parker stood on the observation deck watching the diverse ships of the Federation fleet escort them toward human space. The delegation would carry with them not just diplomatic agreements but technological knowledge, cultural exchanges, and most importantly, the promise of friendship among the stars. Dr. Ashton had compiled extensive medical knowledge that would revolutionize healthcare on Earth. Engineer Mendez carried technical specifications that would advance human technology by centuries. Navigation Officer Morrison had learned navigation techniques that would make human space travel safer and more efficient. But perhaps the most valuable thing they carried home was the knowledge that humanity was not alone in valuing cooperation, exploration, and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. The galaxy was full of species that shared human dreams of progress and understanding. Years later, Federation historians would mark this moment as the beginning of the Great Expansion, an era of unprecedented exploration and peaceful contact with hundreds of new species. Human adaptability and tactical thinking, combined with the Federation's accumulated wisdom, opened new regions of space that had been considered too dangerous to explore. The emergency session of the Galactic Trade Federation Council had been in continuous session for 18 hours. Representatives from 47 species sat in stunned silence as they watched the battle recordings for the 7th time. The impossible had happened. A single vessel had defeated an entire pirate fleet without destroying a single enemy ship. Commander Zethka stood at the central podium, his usually confident demeanor shaken by what he had witnessed. His forearms gestured weakly at the holographic display showing the tactical analysis of the battle. "The recordings are authentic," he announced to the assembled delegates. "Our best analysts have verified every detail. One unknown vessel defeated 17 warships using tactical methods that our military computers cannot adequately explain." Elder Thrum's massive crystalline form resonated with deep, troubled harmonics that filled the entire chamber. His ancient voice carried the weight of 3 millennia of galactic history. The fighting style, the tactical patterns, the mercy shown to defeated enemies, these match the ancient descriptions from the Forbidden Archives. The legends speak truth. The humans have returned to our galaxy. Lieutenant Cora 9 of the Digital Syndicate processed the combat data at superhuman speed, her synthetic consciousness analyzing every aspect of the engagement. Preliminary analysis confirms several key factors that distinguish this encounter from any previous combat situation in Federation records. First, the unknown vessel demonstrated adaptive defensive systems that actually improved during combat. Second, their movement patterns suggest three-dimensional tactical thinking that exceeds our current strategic models. Third, and most significantly, they deliberately chose to disable rather than destroy their opponents. Ambassador Rael of the Peaceful Syndicate spoke with obvious anxiety, her tentacles writhing in complex patterns that expressed her emotional state. "The mercy aspect is what troubles me most. In our experience, species that possess such overwhelming military superiority typically use it to dominate others. These humans could have destroyed the entire pirate fleet within minutes, yet they chose preservation over annihilation." Dr. Zara of the Healing Worlds had been studying the medical implications of the battle recordings. The tactical precision required to disable 17 ships without causing significant casualties suggests an intimate understanding of multiple species' biology and technology. This level of knowledge could only come from extensive study of galactic civilization. Commander Zethka nodded grimly. Which raises the obvious question, how long have they been observing us? If humans have been studying our military capabilities and technological limitations, they could pose a threat to the entire Federation. The chamber erupted in concerned discussions as representatives from different species debated the implications of humanity's return. Some argued for immediate military mobilization, while others suggested diplomatic outreach. The crystalline collective filled the air with discordant musical tones that expressed their confusion and fear. Aboard the Aurora, Captain Parker was dealing with the immediate aftermath of their unexpected battle. The ship's medical bay had been converted into a treatment facility for wounded pirates from the disabled vessels. Dr. Ashton and her medical team were working around the clock to provide care for injuries that ranged from minor burns to serious trauma from disabled ship systems. "Captain," Dr. Ashton reported as she emerged from the medical bay, "the alien physiology is fascinating from a scientific standpoint. But what's really remarkable is their reaction to our medical care. Most of them seem genuinely surprised that we're treating their injuries." "What do you mean?" Parker asked, pausing in her review of the tactical reports. "According to what I can understand from their limited communication attempts, they expected to be executed or abandoned after their defeat. The concept of providing medical care to defeated enemies appears to be completely foreign to them." Engineer Mendez looked up from his damage assessment reports. "Captain, we suffered minimal damage during the engagement, but our energy reserves are down to 60%. The adaptive shielding systems worked better than expected, but they consumed more power than our original calculations predicted." Navigation Officer Morrison was monitoring the approaching Federation vessels that had been detected on long-range sensors. "Ma'am, we have 12 ships approaching our position. They're broadcasting diplomatic identification codes, but they're also maintaining battle-ready formations." Captain Parker studied the sensor readings, noting the careful positioning of the Federation ships. They were clearly prepared for either diplomacy or combat, depending on how the humans responded to contact. Any direct communication attempts? Yes, ma'am, replied Communications Officer Walsh. They're requesting permission to establish formal diplomatic contact. The message is being broadcast in 17 different languages, suggesting they want to make sure we can understand at least one of them. Dr. Ashton joined the group around the navigation console, her scientific curiosity overcoming her concerns about the situation. This is what we came out here to find, isn't it? Evidence that we're not alone in the universe. Now we know that there's an entire galactic civilization waiting for us. Chief Security Officer Ryan Blake, one of the few Aurora crew members with actual military experience, voiced the concern that everyone was thinking. Captain, we just demonstrated that we can defeat their warships. That makes us either valuable, allies, or dangerous enemies. Either way, they're going to want to know a lot more about human capabilities. Captain Parker felt the weight of her species' future resting on her shoulders. Every decision she made in the next few hours could determine whether humanity would be welcomed into galactic civilization or viewed as a threat to be contained. Open a communication channel, she ordered. Let's see what they want to discuss. The main view screen activated, showing Commander Zethka's blue-skinned features. His expression was carefully neutral, revealing none of the apprehension that the Federation leadership was feeling. Unknown vessel. This is Commander Zethka of the Galactic Trade Federation. We request permission to establish formal diplomatic contact. Commander Zethka. This is Captain Lisa Parker of the human exploration vessel Aurora. We welcome the opportunity for peaceful contact and diplomatic discussion. The simple exchange of names and titles carried enormous significance for both species. For the Federation, it confirmed that the legends were real and that humans had indeed returned to galactic civilization. For humanity, it marked the end of their isolation and the beginning of their integration into a vast community of intelligent species. Captain Parker, Commander Zethka continued, your recent engagement with the pirate vessels has raised many questions within our government. We would appreciate the opportunity to discuss these matters in person, if you would be willing to accompany us to our diplomatic facility. Captain Parker glanced at her crew, seeing a mixture of excitement and apprehension in their faces. This was the moment they had all dreamed of during their long journey into unknown space. We accept your invitation, Commander. However, we request assurance that this meeting will be conducted under diplomatic immunity protocols. Of course, Commander Zethka replied, though his expression suggested that he wasn't entirely sure what those protocols might involve when dealing with humans. Station Nexus Prime has facilities designed to accommodate many different species. We will ensure your comfort and safety during the discussions. As the Aurora prepared to accompany the Federation escort to the massive station they had been observing, Dr. Ashton was making final preparations for humanity's first formal contact with galactic civilization. Captain, I've compiled basic information about human physiology, culture, and technology. Nothing that could compromise our security, but enough to demonstrate our peaceful intentions. Engineer Mendez was conducting final system checks before they entered what was essentially alien territory. All systems are operating within normal parameters. The adaptive defense grid is still analyzing the pirate weapons data, so we'll be even better prepared if there are any more hostile encounters. Navigation Officer Morrison plotted their course toward Station Nexus Prime, marveling at the massive structure that grew larger in their viewports with each passing minute. Captain, the station is enormous. I'm reading population levels that suggest millions of beings living and working in that facility. Captain Parker stood on the bridge of the Aurora, watching as they approached humanity's first glimpse into galactic civilization. Behind them, the disabled pirate vessels were being taken into custody by Federation security ships. Ahead of them lay a station that represented thousands of years of peaceful cooperation between dozens of different species. Signal our readiness to proceed, she ordered. And remember, everyone, we're not just representing ourselves today. We're representing all of humanity. Let's make sure we give them the right impression. The Aurora moved toward Station Nexus Prime, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire species that was about to take its place among the stars. The legends had awakened, and the galaxy was about to discover that reality was far more complex and hopeful than the ancient stories had suggested. The Aurora moved through space like a dancer performing an impossible ballet among the stars. Captain Parker's hands remained steady on the controls as she guided her ship through evasive patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Behind her, the crew worked with the precision that came from months of training together in the vast emptiness between stars. "Evasive pattern Delta 7, she called out, her voice calm despite the streams of deadly energy passing dangerously close to their hull. "Carlos, I need everything the engines can give us." Jake plot micro-jumps, random intervals. Engineer Mendez's fingers flew across his control panel as he redirected power from non-essential systems to the engines and defensive arrays. "You've got full power, Captain. But I don't know how long we can maintain this kind of stress on the engine systems." The Aurora twisted through another impossible maneuver, rolling along its main axis while simultaneously changing direction. In 3 dimensions. The movement looked random to the pirate gunners trying to track the ship, but it actually followed complex mathematical patterns that Dr. Ashton was calculating in real time. "Their targeting systems are trying to predict our next position," she reported. Her scientific mind focused on analyzing the enemy weapons even as explosions lit up the space around them. "But they're using linear prediction algorithms. If we maintain truly random movement patterns, they won't be able to get a targeting lock." Navigation Officer Morrison was plotting their course through the battlefield with an artist's eye for spatial relationships. "Dr. Ashton's calculations are working, Captain. The pirates are consistently firing at where we were, not where we are." Aboard the pirate flagship, Vextor watched in growing frustration as his fleet's coordinated attack failed to even scratch the strange human vessel. His most experienced gunners were firing at empty space, while the enemy ships seemed to dance through their weapons fire without effort. "Impossible," he snarled, his clawed hands gripping the command rail hard enough to leave marks in the metal. "No ship moves like that. It has to be some kind of holographic deception." Drex was frantically analyzing the sensor readings, his multiple eyes processing data streams from all 17 ships in the fleet. "It's not a hologram, boss. That ship is really moving in those patterns. But the energy expenditure should be enormous. They should have burned out their engines by now." Captain Razor's voice crackled over the communication channel from her attack ship. "Whatever that thing is, it's not following any known principles of space combat. My weapons officer has 40 years of experience, and he says he's never seen anything like this." The Aurora's next maneuver shocked every pirate in the fleet. Instead of continuing to evade their attacks, the human ship suddenly changed course and accelerated directly toward the largest pirate vessel. The movement was so unexpected that several pirate gunners actually stopped firing in confusion. "They're going to ram Bloodfang," Drex shouted, but even as he spoke, the Aurora pulled up and over the pirate ship at the last possible second. As it passed over the enemy vessel, the Aurora's dorsal weapons arrays fired a concentrated burst that crippled the pirate ship's engines and left it drifting helplessly in space. Captain Parker had made a crucial decision during those first few minutes of combat. Rather than trying to match the pirates' superior firepower, she would use humanity's greatest advantage, their ability to think and act in ways that no other species expected. "1 down, 16 to go," she announced to her crew. "Jake, bring us around for another pass. Carlos, how are the engines holding up?" "Better than expected," Mendez reported with surprise in his voice. "The adaptive cooling systems are actually working more efficiently under combat stress. It's like the ship was designed for this kind of maneuvering." Dr. Ashton was discovering something remarkable about their defensive systems. While alien races had developed energy shields that could be overwhelmed by sufficient firepower, human engineers had created adaptive defense matrices that actually learned from each attack and became more effective as the battle progressed. "Captain, our shields are getting stronger, not weaker," she reported with excitement. "Every time they hit us, the defensive grid analyzes the energy pattern and adjusts to provide better protection against that specific type of weapon." The Aurora began systematically hunting the pirate fleet with methodical precision. Each attack run was carefully planned to disable rather than destroy, leaving enemy vessels helpless but their crews alive. This approach to warfare was something the pirates had never encountered before. Most species in the galaxy followed predictable patterns in combat. They either destroyed their enemies completely or were destroyed themselves. The concept of deliberately choosing to disable rather than kill was so alien to pirate thinking that they initially couldn't understand what was happening. "Why aren't they finishing us off?" Captain Razor asked over the communication channel as she watched her sister ship drift helplessly after losing its engines. They could have destroyed Bloodfang completely, but they just disabled it. Vextor had no answer. In his decades of piracy, he had never encountered an enemy that showed mercy during combat. It went against every principle of warfare he understood. "Keep firing," he ordered. "Whatever their game is, we finish this now." But the Aurora was just getting started. Navigation Officer Morrison had been studying the pirates' formation and movement patterns, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. "Captain, they're maintaining standard attack formations. If we can get them to cluster together, we could disable multiple ships with a single pass." "Do it," Parker replied, then opened the communication channel to address the pirate fleet directly. "This is Captain Parker. You have one chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be taken into custody." Vextor's response was to order all ships to concentrate fire on the Aurora's position. The space around the human vessel erupted in a storm of energy as 17 ships fired simultaneously. But when the explosion cleared, the Aurora emerged, from the other side completely undamaged. "How is that possible?" Drex whispered, staring at his sensor readings. "They took direct hits from 7 different weapon systems." The answer lay in humanity's approach to defensive technology. While other species built stronger shields, humans had built smarter ones. The Aurora's defensive grid didn't just absorb energy. It redirected it, converted it, and even used it to strengthen other ship systems. "Their shields are converting our weapons fire into power for their own systems," reported one of the pirate ship engineers. "The more we shoot at them, the stronger they become." The Aurora's next attack run demonstrated another uniquely human tactical concept: the feint. The ship appeared to be making a direct assault on 2 pirate vessels, but at the last second, it changed direction and disabled 3 different ships that had moved to support their comrades. "They're not just reacting to our moves," Captain Razor observed with growing respect for her opponents. "They're anticipating them. It's like they can read our minds." Dr. Ashton was analyzing the pirates' communication patterns and tactical responses, building a psychological profile of their enemies in real time. "Captain, I think I understand their command structure. The reptilian ship is giving orders to the others. If we can disable their flagship, the rest of the fleet might surrender." "Noted," Parker replied, then executed a maneuver that would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The Aurora accelerated toward a group of 4 pirate ships, appearing to target the nearest one. At the last second, it rolled inverted and passed under all 4 vessels, firing precisely targeted bursts that disabled each ship's weapon systems without damaging their life support. Within the span of 30 minutes, Vextor found himself commanding a fleet of floating wrecks. His own ship was the last one capable of movement, and the mysterious human vessel was positioning itself for what was clearly going to be the final attack. "This is impossible," he whispered, watching as the Aurora approached with the patience of a predator that knew its prey was cornered. 17 warships defeated by 1 explorer vessel. The communication channel crackled to life one final time. "Pirate Lord Vextor, this is Captain Parker. Surrender now, and you and your crews will be treated according to the galactic conventions of war. Continue fighting, and you'll share the fate of your fleet." For the first time in his long career of violence and intimidation, Vextor felt something he had never experienced before: the absolute certainty that he was facing something beyond his ability to comprehend or defeat. The human vessel had demonstrated tactical superiority that went beyond advanced technology or superior firepower. They had shown a way of thinking about warfare that was completely alien to everything he understood. "We surrender," he said quietly, his voice carrying none of its usual arrogant confidence. "Don't fire. We surrender." As the Aurora moved to secure the defeated pirate fleet, none of its crew realized that their battle had been observed by long-range sensors from Station Nexus Prime. The impossible victory was about to send shockwaves through the galactic community that would change everything. The legends were no longer just stories told to frighten children. The humans had revealed themselves, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 sectors away from the Emergency Federation Council session, Pirate Lord Vex Tor stood in the command center of his flagship, studying holographic displays that showed shipping routes throughout the Outer Rim territories. His reptilian features were marked by scars from decades of violent encounters, and his yellow eyes gleamed with predatory intelligence as he planned his next raid. Vex Tor had built his reputation through careful planning and ruthless execution. Unlike the mindless raiders that plagued some sectors, he understood that successful piracy required strategy, timing, and the ability to strike where enemies least expected it. His fleet of 17 stolen warships represented years of careful acquisition and modification. The Federation Navy has increased patrols along the main trade routes, reported his Lieutenant Drex, a 6-eyed creature whose species was known for their exceptional ability to process multiple data streams simultaneously. Our usual hunting grounds are becoming too dangerous for profitable operations. Vex Tor's clawed finger traced a path on the star chart, following the shipping lanes that carried valuable cargo between the industrial worlds and the core systems. Then we expand our operations. Look here, he said, pointing to a route that passed near the boundary of the void sector. Quantum core shipments from the mining worlds. The cargo value would fund our operations for an entire year. Drex's multiple eyes widened with concern. Boss, that's awfully close to the forbidden zone. The old stories say terrible things about that sector. Ships that enter the void sector are never seen again. Stories told by cowards to justify their own weakness, Vex Tor growled. I've been raiding these trade routes for 20 years, and I've never seen anything more dangerous than Federation patrol ships and merchant vessel security teams. Fear is just another weapon that the powerful use to keep the weak in line. Captain Razor of the attack ship Bloodfang spoke from her position at the tactical display. Her species was known for their aggressive nature and their skill in ship-to-ship combat. The merchant vessels in that sector carry light defensive armament. Most of their security budget goes toward protecting against pirates in the heavily traveled routes. They won't expect us to venture so close to the forbidden zone. Vex Tor studied the patrol schedules and shipping manifests that his network of informants had provided. The quantum cores being shipped from the mining worlds were essential components for faster-than-light engines, making them incredibly valuable on the black market. A single successful raid could set his organization up for years. We strike in 6 hours, he announced to his assembled captains. Standard formation approach: disable their engines first, then board and secure the cargo. Remember, we want the merchant crews alive. Dead hostages have no value in negotiations. Aboard the Aurora, Dr. Ashton was analyzing the energy readings from the massive station they had been observing for the past several hours. The structure was clearly artificial, but its design incorporated principles that human science had never encountered. The energy signatures suggested technology that was both incredibly advanced and remarkably efficient. Captain Parker, she reported, I'm seeing patterns in their communication signals that suggest multiple species working together. The linguistic analysis indicates at least 12 different communication protocols being used simultaneously. Captain Parker nodded as she studied the preliminary data. The discovery of an advanced galactic civilization changed everything about humanity's place in the universe. Earth's governments would need to be informed, and first contact protocols would need to be developed from scratch. Engineer Mendez suddenly looked up from his sensor console, alarm evident in his voice. Captain, I'm detecting multiple ship signatures approaching our position. 17 vessels moving in attack formation. The crew of the Aurora gathered around the main display as the approaching ships became visible on their long-range scanners. The vessels were clearly military in design, with heavy armor and obvious weapon mountings. Their approach pattern left no doubt about their intentions. They're not broadcasting any identification signals, reported Communications Officer Jenny Walsh. But they're definitely heading straight for us. Captain Parker felt her pulse quicken. The Aurora was designed for exploration and scientific research, not combat. While they carried basic defensive systems, they were vastly outgunned by what appeared to be a fleet of warships. All crew to emergency stations, she announced over the ship's communication system. This is not a drill. Prepare for possible hostile contact. Dr. Ashton strapped herself into the emergency station in the science section, her mind racing through the possibilities. Captain, could this be some kind of test? Maybe the aliens are checking to see how we respond to pressure. I don't think so, replied Navigation Officer Morrison as he tracked the approaching ships. Their formation and approach speed suggest they're planning an attack, not making contact. The pirate fleet emerged from their final hyperspace jump with practiced precision. Vextor expected to find a convoy of merchant vessels loaded with valuable quantum cores, easy targets that would surrender quickly when faced with overwhelming force. Instead, he found himself staring at a single unknown vessel that didn't match any ship design in his extensive database. The craft was sleek and angular, with a hull configuration that seemed to blend functionality with an aesthetic sense that was completely unfamiliar. "What is that thing?" he demanded, studying the strange ship on his main display. "It doesn't match any Federation design I've ever seen." Drex quickly ran the ship's profile through their identification systems. "No match in our databases, boss. The hull configuration is unknown, and the energy signature doesn't correspond to any known species technology." Vextor had encountered strange vessels before, usually experimental Federation prototypes or ships belonging to recently contacted species. But this craft had an alien quality that went beyond simple technological differences. Everything about its design suggested a completely different approach to spacecraft engineering. "Open communication channels," he ordered. "Let's see what we're dealing with before we start shooting." The communication channel crackled to life as Vextor's voice reached the Aurora. "Unknown vessel, this is Pirate Lord Vextor. You have entered my territory and are subject to my authority. Surrender your cargo and prepare to be boarded, or be destroyed." Captain Parker exchanged glances with her crew. This was exactly the kind of encounter they had hoped to avoid during their exploration mission. However, the pirates had made their intentions clear and there was no possibility of retreat with 17 warships surrounding their position. "This is Captain Lisa Parker of the exploration vessel Aurora," she responded, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "We carry no cargo of value. Withdraw your ships and we'll forget this encounter occurred." Vextor's laughter echoed across the communication channel. The idea that a single ship would attempt to negotiate from a position of such obvious weakness was amusing to him. Brave words from someone who's outnumbered 17-1. "You have 1 minute to surrender or my fleet will open fire." Captain Parker turned to her crew. "Options?" Engineer Mendez shook his head grimly. "Our defensive systems weren't designed for this kind of engagement. We might survive the first volley, but 17 ships will eventually overwhelm us." Dr. Ashton was rapidly analyzing the sensor data from the pirate vessels. "Their weapon systems are more advanced than ours, but they're using standard energy signatures. I think I can predict their targeting patterns." "Do it," Parker ordered. "Jake, prepare evasive maneuvers. Carlos, give me everything the engines have. If we're going to fight, we fight smart." The minute countdown reached 0, and Vextor gave the order that would change galactic history. "All ships open fire. Disable that vessel and prepare boarding parties." The pirate fleet opened fire with coordinated precision, sending streams of plasma bolts and particle beams toward the Aurora. The space around the human vessel erupted in brilliant flashes of destructive energy, as 17 warships unleashed their weapons. But when the energy dissipated, the Aurora was no longer where it had been. The human ship had begun moving in, a pattern that defied everything the pirates knew about space combat, twisting and spinning through 3 dimensions with a grace that seemed impossible for a vessel of its size. "Where did it go?" Drex shouted, his multiple eyes scanning the tactical display frantically. "There!" Captain Razor called out, pointing at her scanner readings. "It's moving in a random pattern. My gunners can't get a lock on it." Vextor watched, in growing amazement as the human vessel danced through space, avoiding weapons fire that should have been impossible to evade. No ship in his experience had ever moved with such unpredictable agility. All ships converging attack pattern, he ordered. Surround that vessel and concentrate fire. But as his fleet moved to execute the maneuver, the Aurora did something that shocked every pirate captain watching. Instead of continuing to evade, the human ship suddenly accelerated directly toward the largest pirate vessel, rolling and spinning to avoid the increasingly desperate weapons fire. The real battle was about to begin. The grand hall of Station Nexus Prime stretched for miles in every direction. Gleaming walls of polished metal reflected the light from thousands of stars visible through massive transparent domes. Representatives from 47 different species filled the enormous space, their voices creating a symphony of sounds that would have been impossible on any single world. Commander Zeth-Ka stood at the central podium, his 4 muscular arms gesturing as he spoke. His blue skin marked him as a member of the Vorthan Empire, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Today he was discussing trade disputes between the mining worlds and the agricultural planets, a routine matter that the Galactic Trade Federation handled every month. Near the front of the assembly, Ambassador Ryle of the Peaceful Syndicate listened carefully. Her pale green tentacles moved in slow patterns that showed she was thinking deeply about the commander's words. The Peaceful Syndicate controlled most of the galaxy's communication networks, making their opinion very important in any decision. Behind them sat the representatives of the Crystalline Collective, beings made of living crystal who communicated by creating beautiful musical tones. Their songs filled the air whenever they agreed or disagreed with a speaker. Today their music was calm and pleasant, showing that they supported the commander's proposals. The insectoid delegates from the Klaxon Hive buzzed quietly among themselves. Their 6 legs clicked against the metal floor as they shifted position, and their large compound eyes never stopped moving as they watched every speaker. The Klaxon Hive was known for their incredible engineering skills and their careful attention to detail. Elder Thrum dominated one entire section of the hall. As a member of the Stone Speakers, he was nearly as large as a building and made of living rock that had grown wise over thousands of years. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like an earthquake, and every other being in the hall stopped to listen. The Stone Speakers were the oldest species in the Federation, and their memory stretched back to the very beginning of galactic civilization. Lieutenant Cora 9 approached the podium when Commander Zeth-Ka finished his presentation. As a member of the Digital Syndicate, she existed as both a physical android body and a pure information consciousness that could travel through computer networks at the speed of light. Her synthetic voice cut through the ambient noise of the Great Hall as she began to speak. "Honored delegates," she said, "I bring urgent news from the Void Sector. Our deep space archaeological teams have recovered ancient data archives from a derelict station near the galactic rim. These archives contain disturbing references to a species that was thought to be purely mythological." The hall grew quiet. Even the Crystalline Collective stopped their musical conversations to focus on her words. Lieutenant Cora 9 activated a holographic display that showed star charts and data streams floating in the air above the assembly. "The archives speak of beings called humans," she continued. "According to these records, they were banished from civilized space over 3,000 years ago due to their extreme violent tendencies and unpredictable behavior." Elder Thrum's massive form shifted, causing small tremors to run through the station's structure. His ancient voice boomed across the hall. "The Void Sector has been forbidden territory for good reason. Those archives contain warnings that were meant to be heeded, not investigated. The stories speak of creatures so violent and chaotic that they threaten the very foundation of peaceful civilization." A ripple of nervous energy passed through the assembled delegates. Most species in the galaxy had heard the old stories about humans, but they had always been treated as cautionary tales rather than historical fact. Parents told their young ones about the savage beings who fought with primitive kinetic weapons and refused to surrender even when facing certain death. Ambassador Ryle's tentacles writhed with anxiety as she spoke. "Surely these are just myths. No species could be as violent as the legends describe and still survive long enough to develop space travel." Lieutenant Cora 9 shook her android head. "The data suggests otherwise. According to these archives, Humans possessed technology that was both primitive and terrifyingly effective. They created weapons that could destroy entire fleets, yet they continued to fight each other, even as their homeworld burned around them. Dr. Zara of the Healing Worlds raised one of her 6 delicate arms. Her species was known throughout the galaxy for their medical knowledge and their absolute commitment to preserving life. The legends say that humans would rather die than submit to any authority. They supposedly fought wars that lasted for decades, destroying their own cities rather than allowing enemies to capture them. Commander Zethka's military training made him more interested in the tactical aspects of the legends. The ancient records describe human fighting techniques that defy all accepted principles of warfare. They supposedly used unpredictable movement, patterns, and adaptive strategies that made them nearly impossible to defeat in battle. Far across the galaxy, completely unaware of the debate taking place about her species, Dr. Vera Ashton sat in the cramped observation deck of the research vessel Aurora. She was studying star charts and making notes about the various solar systems they had encountered during their 6-month journey into unexplored space. The Aurora was humanity's first successful faster-than-light vessel, representing the culmination of centuries of scientific research and engineering development. Its crew of 12 had been carefully selected from Earth's best scientists, engineers, and explorers. Their mission was simple: explore the outer rim of the galaxy and search for signs of intelligent life. Captain Lisa Parker stood near the main viewport, watching the stars stream past as they traveled through hyperspace. Her weathered face showed the confidence that came from decades of experience commanding exploration vessels. She had spent most of her adult life pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, first in Earth's oceans and later in the vast emptiness of space. Captain Parker called Navigation Officer Jake Morrison from his position at the sensor array. We're detecting unusual energy signatures ahead. It looks like some kind of massive artificial structure. Captain Parker moved to look at the display screen. The readings showed something enormous, far larger than anything humans had ever built. How big are we talking about, Jake? Conservative estimate puts it at roughly the size of a small moon. The energy output suggests it's not only occupied but heavily populated. We're talking about millions, maybe billions of beings living in that structure. Engineer Carlos Mendez looked up from his console, excitement and concern battling in his expression. Captain, this could be exactly what we've been looking for. Proof that we're not alone in the universe. Dr. Ashton joined the group around the navigation console. The implications are staggering. If this structure is inhabited by intelligent beings, it means that galactic civilization is far more advanced than we ever imagined. Captain Parker felt the weight of the moment. For generations, humanity had believed they were alone in the cosmos. They had reached for the stars driven by curiosity and the hope that somewhere among the billions of galaxies, they might find others who shared their dreams of exploration and discovery. All stop, she ordered. Bring us out of hyperspace at maximum safe distance. We observe and gather data before making any decisions about contact. We're not ready for first contact protocols, and we need to understand what we're dealing with before we announce our presence. The Aurora dropped out of hyperspace several million kilometers away from the massive structure. Through their telescopes, they could see ships moving in organized patterns around the station, following what appeared to be established traffic control systems. The technology was clearly far more advanced than anything Earth had developed. My God, whispered Dr. Ashton as she studied the readings. Jake, are you getting life sign readings from those ships? Multiple species, he confirmed, his voice filled with wonder. The biosignatures are completely different from anything in our databases. We're looking at a community of alien races working together. Captain Parker made the decision that would change human history forever. We watch and learn. No active scans, no transmissions, nothing that might reveal our presence. We need to understand this civilization before we make contact. None of them realized that their careful observation would soon be interrupted by forces that would thrust humanity onto the galactic stage in the most dramatic way possible.